If somebody wants to join your team, how can he join?
Right now, we're actually in our recruitment period for next year for full-timers. So each year we try to get a number of people on board who will join the team full-time next year. And that started about a month ago. And what that means is that we give a lot of information. We have a lot of events where people can come and see our system and talk to us and see what it's like to be a full-timer, because it's of course a big commitment. You're stopping your studies for a year and you're working on this 40 hours a week, so you really have to find it fun, otherwise it's not really going to go well. So then people get to talk to us, kind of see what it's like, what kind of system they'll be working on, what kind of people they'll be working with. They can ask lots of questions, of course, and then they can decide to apply, which means that they send in their CV, a motivation letter usually, and then most people we ask for an interview because we want to get to know them better, and because we've been doing this for a while, we know what kind of people would be good for full-time and for different positions within the team. So then we try to see, does this person fit? So we usually talk quite a bit with the person. Interview is usually around an hour even, meaning we really get to know them and see if they're a good fit for the team. But normally a lot of people apply from all over, really. It is important that they're from our university, for example, because they need access to the buildings, of course, so they can actually work inside. They can live in the area. It's not necessary that they live exactly in Delft. I guess in terms of the interview, what kind of questions we give. We have a few technical questions usually, because we want to see what people think like, right? We want to see what their kind of thinking is. Are they more analytical, or are they more creative? So there's really lots of different types of thinking and lots of different types of answers that can get very exciting to our questions. So one example of that, for example, would be the fact that, of course, our engine gets very hot. And we ask people who don't necessarily know how we cool our engine, how would you cool an engine, right? How would you cool a rocket engine that gets so hot and prevent it from melting? And then people really get to brainstorm a bit, and they give some pretty interesting answers usually.
Yeah, and if I can add, I guess a question that we get a lot is what do I need to know to be able to join? Like, which courses do I need to take, or what experience are you looking for? And the answer that we always give, and it's the truth, is like, you don't need any experience to join us, because the reason why you join Project Sparrow is to get experience, and we don't expect people to have experience in building rockets at like university level. Like, that would be shooting ourselves in the foot pretty much. So we just look for people that are motivated, that really want to bring this project forward, that really want to contribute. And if they don't know anything about rocket engines, that's totally fine. They will learn it. If they don't know anything about organization, about how to produce a part, it's fine. Like, you will learn it on the job. So what we look for is motivation mostly, and be able to work in a team. It's quite important. So as Nathaniel explained, we have a full-time team. That is the team that basically makes the core decisions, that brings the project forward. But then we also have lots of part-time members that are students that participate in the project without stopping their studies. So they contribute while they're still studying. And it's important that in such a big team that you know how to work with other people. So those are things that we also look for.
What can you learn by working in your team?
What can't you learn, really? No, in terms of engineering, lots, because it kind of simulates what working for a real company or in a real engineering project is like. And I've heard from a lot of team members this year that they've learned more in the first 2-3 months of the project than they ever have in their life, pretty much. And my experience is the same. Because you're suddenly in charge of a whole rocket engine, and that really hasn't happened to any of us in our life before, obviously. So what that means is, there's suddenly this big responsibility. There's all these tasks that you hadn't even thought of. So you start to learn how to organize yourself and organize work with others very quickly. You also start to learn, obviously, if you're especially in a technical job, you start to learn 3D modeling, programming very well in ways that you maybe hadn't in university before, different languages or different tasks. You start to learn how to work in a team very well, how to be really open to each other, help each other, because it can be fairly stressful at times, of course. So how to support each other. So a lot of skills that, in my opinion, are very, very important also later on. If you want to be a rocket engineer, you can learn in this team. I don't know, Carmen, what have you learned so far, you feel?
Yeah, I think mostly on top of the technical aspect, because if you're purely interested in something technical, well, you have the resources to go and learn and do it, let's say. But I think that the majority of the things that you learn are non-technical. They're about cooperation, about organization of a big team. They're about planning, for example. How do you plan for a test campaign? Or they're about logistics, like what do I need to bring? Who needs to be where, when? So there are lots of things that you never learned at university in courses, because courses teach you about aerodynamics, they teach you about structures, materials, but they don't teach you about how do you actually get it done. And that skill, in a way, or that like knowledge that you earn, it's really hard to teach. It's something that you need to be there, you need to try it out, and you need to fail at it to be able to learn. So for instance, we organize a test campaign and you bring everything and you forget a pen to write notes. It's really stupid, but it happens to everyone. But then after you forget it once, you don't forget it again. And those small details that you never thought of, they actually build up and they create this awareness in you of like, okay, I need to get this done. And in order to do that, I need to do this, do that, do this, prepare this. I need to ask this person to do this for me. And like that awareness, I think, is something that you don't learn anywhere else.
Yeah. And I think you also learn to work in really tough circumstances sometimes, because, when you're doing an exam on aerodynamics, you're in a nice comfy hall and you have your pen and pencil and whatever, and you can write. And then suddenly we were out a few weeks ago testing and it started raining like crazy. And the wind was blowing and blowing our tents away. And suddenly we couldn't take notes because our paper was getting so wet. And we had to do all the engineering that we'd learned to do in completely different circumstances, and everything was cold, and it's not great for your mood. So suddenly you're in the real world and in situations that you will actually get in throughout your life, and not just sitting in a lecture hall at the university. And I think that really builds your character as well and gives you a sense of what it is actually like to work as an engineer. So that's been really fun.
Yeah, and problem solving, I would say, as well. Because when you actually need to get things done and you have a time window and you're like, okay, we can test on this day, and then you forgot something or something breaks, like the test campaign that Nathaniel was mentioning, so many things broke or so many things went wrong, and you need to solve it, otherwise you cannot test. So that kind of puts you in the situation of like, okay, well, you need to be really resourceful. And I think that's something really valuable to learn.